What's up YouTube, Capital G here, talking about the Crystron spells and traps in this video. So Konami released this article. It's basically all about the Crystrons. It's kind of like a how-to guide or an introduction to the archetype. It shows you all the monsters in their premiere set being, of course, Invasion of Venom. And the breakdown of the archetype as of right now, they have 3 spells and traps. They have 2 tuners, 4 non-tuners, and then they've got their 3 synchros. If you combine it all up, it's 12 cards, which to me is pretty legitimate. I mean, I think that is definitely respectable in their premiere set. I mean, it's way better than what Grados had to go through or what an archetype like Aramage just got. So this is very similar to what Konami did with the digital bugs. If you're like, hey, this looks familiar, they did this in Shining Victories with digital bugs. So this is pretty much like the same exact thing. So they got themselves a field spell for starters. It's called Crystal Potential. Unfortunately, it isn't a Crystron card, so it isn't searchable by Smogger, which is like kind of, yeah, whatever. I mean, we always have Terraforming, so you could always run Terraforming if you really want to get to this card immediately. I think the card is really good, and I kind of like, now that I look at its name, the name actually works really well with what the card actually does, because this card is based on potential. The first effect says all Crystron monsters you control gain 300 attack and defense. The second says once per turn during the end phase, you can draw 1 card for each Crystron synchro monster you synchro summon this turn. To me, effect number 2 is all about potential, and effect number 2 is potentially busted. And I say that because we know that their boss monster, Phoenixin, it's not the easiest thing to make. And honestly, I was just like, why would I want to? I mean, it's a good card, don't get me wrong. Heavy Storm on crack replaces itself. It's really good, but why would I want to invest all of that time to summon this thing? To me, this is why you'd want to do it. Like, this is kind of a card that makes it still worth synchro summoning in 2016. You know how in 2014, Konami basically rewarded Yang Zings for synchro summoning by giving the synchros like empowered effects based on what you use to synchro them with. Like, okay, you want to synchro with Bixie, your synchro is now unaffected by traps. And it's like, oh, well, that's really freaking awesome. You know what I mean? This card does that for this archetype. If you want to go into Phoenixin and you want to synchro these guys all, you know, in one turn, you're going to be drawing 3 cards during the end phase. But even better than that, because I know some of you guys are like, Cap, that reminds me of Cleefort Monolith, where, you know, you tribute for your sky base or whatever and you draw 3 cards during the end phase, and that is absolutely huge. But what's even better about this card, Crystal Potential, is you get to do it during both players' turns. Now, I don't know how on earth you would ever, you know, like tribute summon a Cleefort monster during your opponent's turn. If you did, I assume that Monolith would work during both players' turns, but we know that Crystrons can synchro during both players' turns. That's one of the things that is built into this archetype, so I see no reason why if you synchro into one of them, why you shouldn't be able to draw 1 card during your opponent's end phase. I mean, if there is, then I guess I stand corrected, but I don't see a reason why you can't trigger this during both players' turns. The 300 attack and defense is mainly, to me, not about the main deck monsters, because most of their stat lines kind of suck, especially the tuners. I think it's more to do with the synchros. I mean, if you apply it in the right places, to me it is kind of game changing. I mean, think about a level 4 synchro with 2300 defense. That's pretty damn hard to get over. Think about a level 5 synchro with 2800 defense. I mean, that's fucking better than Goyo Garden. Or you could have Phoenixin, their level 9. You could get that guy to 3100 and he'd just be able to beat over basically anything. So I think that is very legitimate. I'd probably run, I mean, you could do 2 terraforming, or excuse me, you could do 2 potential and 1 terraforming, or you could just do 3 potential. I would probably just run, like, you know, between those two cards, I'd run 3 copies. Next up is Crystron Entry, normal trap, and their other 2 cards are both traps. You can only use the 2 effect once per turn. Effect number 1, special summon 2 Crystron tuner monsters, 1 from your hand, 1 from the graveyard. Effect number 2, during your player's turn, except the turn that it was sent to the graveyard, and both of them had that built in. It's basically like the breakthrough skill clause. I like to call it the breakthrough skill clause. A graveyard effect that activates, but you can't use it the same turn that you activated it on the field, or if it got MST'd, you can't use it that same turn. Excuse me. This says you can banish this card from your graveyard, target 1 Crystron monster in your, that you control, send 1 Crystron monster with a different level than that monster from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, the level of the targeted monster becomes the same as the level of the monster in the graveyard. Okay, so in layman's terms, this allows you to take one of your tuners, like, you know, Crystron Citry, and it allows you to dump one of your other monsters of a different level, like, you know, any of your non-tuners. This just use those for example because it has most synergy with those. So you could dump Smogger into the graveyard and then your Citru would become level 3. Now what's cool about this is the fact that you can actually banish that monster that you sent to the graveyard to get another effect, because all of the non-tuners of this archetype, all of these guys, when they're in the graveyard, you can banish them to search a Crystron spell or trap, to search a monster, to special a card from your hand that's also a Crystron, to get a token. So this card has natural synergy with the archetype, the second effect anyways. And since you're adjusting levels, it's a really good way to make your tuners like much higher levels, so that you can go into like level 8 a lot easier, so that you can go into like level 7, level 7 synchros a lot easier, because with this deck, chances are the entire extra deck is going to be nothing but synchros. I don't expect people to, you might run like one Casto in this deck, but for the most part, it's going to be pretty much all synchros. And effect number 1 is pretty good. I think that it's mainly going to be able to, like, I think you're mainly going to use it to just like, synchro like 2 or 3 times, because you're going to have double tuners. So you're definitely going to have to like go ham during that turn that you use it. Effect number 2, in my opinion, is actually better than effect number 1. And then finally, there's Crystron Impact. This says target one of your banished Crystron monsters, special summon it, and if you do, the defense of all face-up monsters your opponent controls becomes 0. During your player's turn, except the turn that this card was sent to the graveyard. When a card or effect activates that target a Crystron monster or monsters you control, you can banish this card from your graveyard and negate that activation. Well, I mean, you guys know ever since kind of like Dimension of Chaos, targeting has kind of like been, I feel like it's slowly just being taken out of the game. Cards like Book of Moon, Evac Device, things like even Dart Destroyer's effect, there's so many good targeting cards that just aren't really that good anymore, because it just doesn't seem like you can't really target that much. This is just another card that adds on to that. I mean, if your opponent wants to use a targeting effect, they want to try and Dart Destroy you, they want to use their Magispector Tornado, you can just block that. I like this effect number 1 mainly because of the 6 main deck monsters that Crystron have, 5 of them revolve around banishing. Like for these guys all can banish themselves at any point that they want. And then you have the tuner that, when you summon it and you get a card or you get a monster from the graveyard, you have to synchro immediately into a machine monster, and those cards get banished instead of going to the graveyard. So much of this archetype revolves around banishing that it seems like, you should be able to trigger this card's effect at any point. Being able to use this during the battle phase is really legitimate, and you can actually get the synchros with it too. It actually makes me wish, some people might hate this idea, it really makes me wish the Dragon Rulers were still legal. Could you guys imagine Tidal in this deck? Like, Tidal would be so good in this deck, because the Crystron monsters can already banish themselves whenever they want, but you could honestly like just use those to summon Tidal, and then that would combo so well with Impact. Could you imagine if you had like, Phoenixin in the graveyard, right? And then you summon Tidal, and then you attacked your opponent directly, and they didn't have a response, and then you activated Impact, and then you summoned, Phoenixin during that same battle phase. Like, that'd almost be GG. Like, those 2 attacks would be almost 6,000 damage right there, and it would be a very easy combo to pull off. So Konami, if you ever see this video, bring back the Dragon Rulers, man. Just do it, seriously. Or just bring back Tidal. Just bring back Tidal so I can play this deck with Tidal in it. So anyways, let me know what you guys think. I think the Crystrons have a lot of potential right now. I've been seeing variants. They look pretty decent. It seems to be very fast. Like, it seems a lot faster than Yang Zing, because you can blow stuff up on your side of the field and you can trigger things like Gear Town. I don't know. The deck seems like a much faster version of something like Yang Zing's. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching as always. Hopefully, because they can adjust their levels with entry, I'm hoping that they get like I'm actually hoping that they get like a level 10 or maybe like a level 8 synchro, one that doesn't require maybe one that doesn't require synchro tuners, but one that is specific to them, one that requires like 2 Crystron monsters. That would be kind of cool. So anyways, thank you guys for watching as always.